GT Racing, Scuderia Ferrari Edition, the heart of the race.
Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to extend a very warm welcome back to the Formula Sim Racing World Championship. It's round 9, it's the Belgian Grand Prix, and it is sizzling heat out here in most of Europe. A 44-lap race ahead of us around one of motorsport's most iconic circuits. This one is going to be one to remember, and one where we'll have to keep an eye out for which of the drivers among the elite in FSR can keep their heads cool. Lewis McGlade alongside Cameron Rodger for today's action, and this one is definitely going to be one to remember, isn't it, Cameron?
Yes, Spa is always a brilliant track. There's plenty of room for overtaking. You've got Sector 1 and Sector 3, which are all about the straights. Sector 2 is all about the corners. So where do you place the setup of your car? Do you go for low wings to gain half a second in Sector 1 and 2, but then lose a second in Sector 2 as well? So you've really got to choose what you're going to do, and I'm sure we'll find that out in the next 2 hours.
Absolutely. It's one of sim racing and indeed motorsport's mysteries is how to set up a car for the Belgian Grand Prix. Of course, these cars have 933 brake horsepower with a top speed of 370 kph. Expect some of the higher top speeds of the season to be coming here. Weight of 740 kilos and a mix of fuel mixtures and boost modes for the drivers to use. Of course, expect all of that to be turned all the way up to the max as we are in that qualifying session. And the important things to note about setting up a car around here isn't just how to make it quick over one lap. That is what makes Spa so good. It's how to make a car good over the race. There are two very different things. You can make a car quick, but if it shreds its tyres, it's no good. You've got 44 laps to manage around here. You've got to make sure that your car's good on, let's say you qualify on the ultra soft tyre. You've got to make sure that those tyres can last as long as they possibly can while still giving you the great lap times. It is absolutely impossible to do, but that is why we have some of sim racing's best open wheel drivers right here in front of us.
Yeah, and let's jump in to see what they can do around this qualifying session. As normal, they have 20 minutes and 12 laps to complete their time. So 12 laps including in and out laps means they only really have 4 attempts. So there is a little bit of pressure on these drivers to make sure they get their fast laps in and not bottle their laps.
Yeah, they don't have much time. Mitchy Hoyer is going to be the first one to go onto a provisional pole position with a 1:41.068. That's his fast time. From what I'm hearing so far, as much as Spa is not a really high tyre wear circuit, you only really get one very quick lap on these tyres. Naturally, that's the way it is on an ultra soft tyre. It's a very soft compound of tyre, which means it is going to degrade. It is going to thermally erode. And so you only get that one real stab. Jenny Simoncic, the man of the season so far, jumps onto that provisional pole position now, 40.890. Of course, had pole and victory last time out ahead of Martin Gosby, Rodger and Panzar, allowing it to be the first 1, 2, 3, 4 for ACR in FSR's World Championship this season. That's really given him, one hand at least on the trophy. He has a 68-point lead over Martin Gosby, and ACR as well in the Teams Championship have both of their teams ahead of anyone else. It's Avid Chronic Racing currently 109 points ahead of Avid Chronic Racing Blue, who are in turn 54 points ahead of Edge Esports. So definitely an interesting one to keep an eye out. I was going through some stats prior to this, and I came across two very important ones when it came to not only this season, but the circuit as well. We have Jerne Simicic, obviously leading the championship, obviously having taken 6 wins so far in 2019 out of the 8. Martin Gosby obviously taking the other 2. So ACR are the only team to have won a race this season, and they've won all of them. But every race apart from 2 have been won from pole position, which I thought was interesting, because the only times that we've had a pole position that didn't go on to them was McGlade D'Alessandro back in China, and was Kirill Burakov back in Azerbaijan. Other than that, every time that pole position has been set, it's gone on to win the race. That is an interesting fact. The other thing as well here, missed. Oh man, speak straight up to the top. McGlade D'Alessandro, the man I wanted to bring up, goes on to provisional pole position on a 40.723. Now I brought this point up to you, Cameron, before the event. He has had the previous 2 pole positions at Spa, but hasn't won. Now that's interesting.
Yeah, I think it's because this track you can actually overtake. It's not, for instance, Hungary last time out. If you get pole, you're pretty much going to win the race because of how tight and twisty it is. But in Spa, you can overtake, and that is what we're going to see all throughout this race. You've got 3 straights, you've got 2 DRS zones. Is going to be really good with the slipstream. That is, it's quite powerful in this car.
And that's what makes the racing so great. I love just insane slipstream, because it just allows for just the craziest racing, because you have to really use your head on how to position your car, where to position your car, and what to do with it. And it really increases that racecraft and that race knowledge. You have to use everything to your advantage, whether it's to a strategical benefit, looking after your tyres, fuel, everything. You have to think about absolutely everything to win at this level. And then to piece it all together to somehow form your way into a World Championship challenge takes a lot of brain power, which ACR are using all of at the moment.
Yeah, you can't really deny the job that ACR are doing. They are, well, they're simply put, they are just getting the best out of the car, and they are showing that they are the dominant force in Formula Sim Racing at the moment. Obviously, 2 teams this year, as you said, leading that constructor with both of their teams. So it's certainly what other people need to catch as the season progresses.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's always good having a target. I see that Jerne Simicic has gone to start his second flying lap. He's currently on the Kemmel Straight heading up towards Les Combes. I'm sure we'll grab an onboard at some point to take you through a lap. Well, why don't we can take it on from here. As he runs down the hill, massively down the hill. This is very, very steep, a lot steeper than it looks, into Brussels, and then round into a very famous corner with absolutely no name, and that is its name. Whoa, straight out to the wall. Super, super close. This is Jerne Simicic, the man on form, absolutely pinning a car to the limit. You heard a slight lift there on the entrance to Pouhon, just to get that front end dug in, but it wasn't really much of a lift. We head through the Fania chicane. You can call it campus, you can call it piff paff, I call it Fania, why not? And then into Stavolo. This I always thought was one of the trickiest corners on the circuit, because there's only really one line for it, but it feels like you can take many. We head through Curve Paul Frere, and then one of the fastest runs to pretty much the quickest corner on the calendar towards Blanchimont, and then absolutely pinned flat out to the ground, to the bus stop chicane, absolutely heavy braking zone, uphill, or down all of the gears, hook the curbs, but not too much. You don't want to get onto the sausages because it will spin you around. And an excellent run towards the line. This will be a quick time for Simicic, and it is indeed that pole position now heads to the ACR camp, a 40.688. Can D'Alessandro, Gosby, Araneda, can any of these respond? Araneda's just about to start his lap. Gosby's about to start his.
And Simicic only got a purple middle sector, so does that say that ACR have a high wing setup for that middle sector? We will have to see as the laps start to come in, because that could make him vulnerable on the straights in the race.
Yeah, I went through the philosophy with Peter Burlack about this, I think over 5 years ago. About because I don't know if his philosophy has changed in 5 years. I'm pretty sure it would have done as he starts his flying lap. Jos Araneda sets a green first sector, which is actually quicker than Simicic's first sector on that lap, so keep an eye on him. But Berlak was always like, I wanted to run more downforce on the car because it gives you more opportunities to overtake, and I thought that was interesting because I'm of completely the opposite. I want the fastest car in a straight line so I can blitz past people nice and easy, whereas they want that downforce because it opens more options. And around here, the obvious overtaking opportunities are into Les Combes, are into the bus stop chicane, or into La Source. Whereas if you can chuck one up in the middle of the circuit, that's unexpected, and then you can build on what you have.
I think that is it's a lot down to personal preference as well, because as you say, if you want to be the guy who's really quick in the straights and making the overtakes there, then that is a risk you're going to have to take, because you will definitely have a lot more tyre wear as well with losing downforce in that middle sector.
Oh yeah, absolutely, because your tyre scrub, you can't keep on top of it. We watched Jos Araneda come towards the bus stop chicane. He's actually on a very good lap at the moment. Currently 0.1 off a pole. Really didn't get the power down well out of the final chicane though. Yeah, did not gain time there. He did set, according to me, set a purple final sector though.
Yeah, but he was, what's that, half a second off in that middle sector.
Oh, was he? I see.
So again, that
green for me. I apologise.
That's just, well, he was half a second off Simicic, in that middle sector. So that is just the balance of where you gain time in which sector. And we got Braxot coming back to the line now. He goes to a pole position as well. Purple middle sector. Nothing special in the first sector as well. So it seems higher wings in for that middle sector is what you want to get pole position today.
Yeah, but will it be enough to grab race victory? You want as many people around you that have the same methodology if you're on that high downforce, because that will hopefully bridge the gap for those that are running the lower downforce. But Braxot continuing. Ghost Speed's actually rather decent qualifying effort recently. I believe he was third in the previous round, and they had someone, I think it's Tom Satherley, who was third back in Germany. Fortunately, the races didn't quite work out in their favour. They weren't bad races, mind, but not quite as good, particularly in Hungary. I remember Braxot didn't have the best race. But continuing that great qualifying form, potentially going a couple of places further up the order on his ascension in the World Championship rankings. Robin Panzar goes to third. I just noticed 40.713. Things are getting tight at the top. 4 drivers within 700ths of a second.
And in the top 6 places, we have 5 different constructors. So it is a lot more open at this Spa-Francorchamps circuit today.
This is one that a lot of drivers would have been targeting, though. A lot of drivers, a lot of teams will be targeting this event to really hone in a great result. Everyone loves the circuit. Racers, drivers, teams. It's a relatable circuit because we all can understand it. We all speak that language. When you say, "Oh, this driver's won at Azerbaijan," people are like, "Yeah, that's cool, great." Whereas when you said, "Look, you've won at Spa, you've won the Belgian Grand Prix," that actually means something. That history, that heritage. It brings something more to the table, and that's why teams target these events more so than others. Some teams that are struggling at the moment, though, the returning Daniel Kish and Peter Berlak for Edge Esports, currently down in 9th and 11th positions, respectively. Things not going great for them. Peter Berlak, by the way, was victorious here last season, I believe. Went on to win 5 other races that year, but this was his first of the season. That is insane to me. But nevertheless, he won here, Italy, in the United States and Brazil. It was 4. But this was his first win of the season. Really took on a really strong stance over the rest of the season, so you can really build upon that by winning at a Grand Prix this time of the year, back from that summer break, but currently doing it from 11th position isn't really going to do him much good.
Only good thing about starting 11th place is that you get free choice on tyres, because the top 10 have to start on their qualifying tyre, which is almost always going to be the softest compound, which today is the ultra softs. However, if you start P11 and downwards, you get free choice on what you start on. So you will be able to go longer in the race and have some sort of different strategy to work your way up the grid later on.
Yeah, he doesn't move up the order from that 11th position, just Peter Bolak. He started second here last year, was beaten to pole position by McGlade D'Alessandro by 5 tiny thousandths of a second. Who was that who moved up into the top 10? Michi Hoyer moved up into 7th position, so he's doing good there.
Yeah,
Of course,
ground effect as well, because his teammate Yosser Anid is in 7th place as well. So ground effect certainly having a good performance today so far.
Yeah, of course, Michi Hoyer moving away from the ACR camp earlier in the year was a big part of that, but now joins Ground Effect and seems to be doing some good work there, that is for sure. No purple first sectors from Panzar or Simoncic. Panzar pulls off and decides enough of that. Thank you very much. Martin Gosby by 0.2 of a second.
Wow.
That is a monster lap. Almost nothing appeared of that on the timesheet.
He didn't even get a purple sector. That shows you that potential that is left out of some of these drivers as well. If Gosby didn't even set a purple sector on his way to getting the pole position.
Do you know what baffles me here? Brackshock. He set 6 of his 12 laps. We have 3.5 minutes to go. He is still in the pit lane. He hasn't gone back out again. Why? That is absolutely confusing to me. We see Jene Simoncic come out of the bus stop chicane. We'll return to the Brackshock thing in just a second as he comes towards the line and goes up to 2nd position. Jumps Brackshock by 3 thousandths of a second. Surely Brackshock will be coming out. I remember when I had a pole position back in a different series a long time ago. And I set the time halfway through the session. I actually had to stand up and leave the room. I couldn't be in the room because I was like that I knew that time was as good as I could get it. It was like a perfect lap and I couldn't improve on it. I just stood up and I left. I came back 10 minutes later and saw that I had pole position still.
I don't know, because Brackshock he got a podium a couple of races ago, if I remember rightly as well, and he's been up there. Sadly, Ghostspeed aren't really having the season that they want with results, so I have to see what he can do later on the race. But he's certainly a sort of a dark horse to look out for, I would say, for this race up there in P3.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. He had a podium back in Germany. Tom Satherley and himself actually qualified very, very well. I believe it was something like 3rd and 5th or 4th and 5th at the German Grand Prix. His teammate Tom Satherley was unfortunately taken out, I believe, on the first lap of the race, of all things. But then for Ghostspeed, managed to recover and get on that podium. Bearing in mind that he hadn't scored points until the 5th round of the season, had Janis Brackshock. He's been 7th, retired 3rd and 6th, which realistically at this level is not a bad run of form. Of course, the retirement does sort of stand out a little bit at the British Grand Prix, but qualified in 3rd last time out. So realistically, this could be that turning point for Ghostspeed. I think we all kind of want it because we like Ghostspeed are a reliable team. They've got a lot of heritage in the paddock, and are definitely one of those teams as Brackshock has returned to the circuit to begin his final stint, really. They're a team that we kind of want to see back towards the front end of the field. We haven't seen them really at the front end since the run of form that Jene Simoncic had for them, I think back in 2017.
Yes, he left them at the end of 2017, but he was 2nd in the championship the last 4 seasons, I think it is. And only one of them was with ACR. So he did bring Ghostspeed up the top, and obviously they didn't have the best season last year, but they've got some good drivers this year, and I'm sure as we go into 2020 as well, next season, they will be looking to get even higher up the grid.
Yeah, absolutely. They're starting to build a decent rostrum of drivers as well that can fulfill those idealisms that they wish to complete. Victor Ivanov, one of the people coming into this round, has got up to 14th. By the way, finishing his session, he's brand new for the round. We'll go through that on the warm-up lap as to who is new. A few people starting their final laps. Ricardo Costa in 7th position has set a decent first sector and an okay middle sector. It's hard to work out because everyone's running such radically different setups. It's hard to know if something's good for someone and bad for someone else.
A lot of traffic as he comes into his final sector. He's already had to pass 4 cars. He's got 2 ahead of him. Luckily, they are not going to affect him as he comes across the line. Currently in 7th place for Oromir Simsport. Where can he put himself? He goes up to 5th place. Although I have to say, the times are so close. Yerne in P2 in a 0.6. Jeff in P11 on a 0.8. So only 2 tenths covering 10 drivers.
Yeah, of course, HME Oromilla Simsport have had a podium previously in the season, have scored points in every race so far. They had a podium back at the French Grand Prix, courtesy of Geoffrey Fournier, who started from an ominous P11 where he currently sits. He was allowed that free option on the tyre choice and made the most of it. We're in that final stint, though, to see who will get that pole position. And all these drivers now will be on the absolute limit of adhesion through every single corner.
I'll tell you,
I
was just going to say exact same. Peter Bernak, he's on 2 personal bests. Obviously, P12 is not where this man wants to be. Former SimRacing World Champion in 2015, and I believe he's also the Ace Championship champion in 2014. So that was the second division. So he's had plenty of success. 4 race wins last year. 12th is not where he can be. Where can he put himself? He doesn't improve, so he stays in P11.
Yeah, crazy. Second last year. 12th this year, down 10 positions. Whilst we were talking, Jos Araneda moved himself up into 4th position with an excellent job. Jone Simoncic has set a decent second sector. We'll have to keep an eye on him. Last season's pole sitter, McGlade D'Alessandro, down in 7th position. Obviously, the form for that, the world champion, that team not going so great this season. Mohammed Patel jumps up into 7th. Of course, the champion the year before. So they have the 2 most recent world champions. Is 7th and 8th really the best they can do? Yet to win a race this season. Is this going to be a change of form here? McGlade D'Alessandro to the line? No, it is not. 8th position and 7th position is as good as it gets for them. Robin Panzar moves up into 2nd position. Fantastic work. Jone Simoncic now down in 3rd position. And that's it. That's all she wrote for Jone Simoncic. He's finished. He's done. Martin Gosby, he's already on pole position. But is he going to improve? I don't think so. I think it's going to be set on what he's got right now. It is indeed. So Martin Gosby is going to confirm himself as the pole sitter. The previous 2 times he had a pole position this season. That was the British Grand Prix and the German Grand Prix. And what did he do on both days? He was victorious.
Yeah, and after all of that, we still ended up with an ACR 1-2-3, but the times are so close. We are expecting a really exciting race today. There's going to be plenty of teams in the mix. There's going to be plenty of action with these long straights, and we will get you built up for that race in just a few minutes as we will return after these advertisements.
Right, welcome back then as we prepare ourselves for the Belgian Grand Prix. Now, this is going to be a scintillating race, I am sure. And what a championship we have had so far. The man who's currently qualified on pole position has won the previous 2 times he qualified on pole position, which wasn't last time out. Last time out was Jene Simoncic who had the pole, and then went on to race victory at the Hungarian Grand Prix ahead of Martin Gosby. David Morcek rounded out the podium places. Jene Simoncic currently qualified in the 3rd position here. We'll be looking to take another victory this season. We have a look though at those championship standings, and we can see how dominant ACR really have been this season. Jene Simoncic, the number 17, has 183 points to his name, 115 to Martin Gosby. Of course, Gosby didn't start life this season in the full ACR camp. He was in ACR Blue and then moved across, but has 150 points to his name regardless. Peter Berlak, the first non-ACR, 102 points back from Jene Simoncic. That is a crazy margin. Robin Panzar, Jeffrey Fournier with a podium earlier this season, rounds out the top 5. Our world champion, McGlade D'Alessandro, currently in 6th position, and Rocek in 7th after that podium. Sander Kallis in 8th position, and Mohamed Patel in 9th. Brakshock rounds out the top 10 after his podium back in Germany as well. So some interesting drivers a bit further down the order that potentially could make the most of it. Brakshock, I believe, is qualified 4th position here, so might be able to move his way even further up the standings. But as we look at the teams, though, you can see, as we brought up in qualifying, it's ACR 1 and 2 in that team standings. Avachronic Racing, 109 points ahead of their sister team, ACR Blue. Edge Esports in 3rd position, not really the best season for them. They've got their 2 main game drivers back of Daniel Kish and Peter Berlak, but they've not qualified great here. Peter Berlak down in 12th position. Of all places, John Lacey Esports Academy, definitely not the season they were expecting. 2 world champions in their ranks, currently only 4th, 1 point ahead of HME Oramilla Simsport, but they have got their main drivers, Michele D'Alessandro and Mohamed Patel, back for this round. Netrex Grand Prix in 6th position, Ghost Speed Racing in 7th. Now, they are the team that I would suggest are going to be moving up in this second half of the season, down in 7th position. They've been showing some really, really good form recently, so keep an eye on them. Invictus down in 8th, Flag to Flag down in a lowly 9th. They had their points back in the German Grand Prix, if I recall correctly, and that's where they scored all 6 of them. Frami Autosport in 10th, freshly new liveried this round as well, which we'll grab a shot of on the formation app. And then Ground Effect SimRacing down in 11th with Jos Araneda and Michi Hoyer in that team. We should surely see some good results out of them. Well, I mean, even here they are looking pretty strong as a team. Realistically, it's just a surprise they've not put the points together.
That was a long list of points and various things to get through. But yeah, I mean, as you still see from this team standing on the page, it really is ACR who are just dominant. That's all you can say really. And you've got Edge and John Lacey who are also like sister teams. They are there, and then behind them is Oromir and Netrex also in sister teams. So you can see how the alliances are working as they sort of work out in the championship. But you can't really put ACR down at all for just coming out and being dominant. That's something that everyone else needs to improve upon, both be it with practice and also execution on the race day.
The only right thing to do when it comes to domination in a championship, if you're not that one dominating, is to respect it. You just have to look at them and think, wow. I mean, it's incredible what they're doing. ACR as a market, as a team. Between the 2 of them, they've clearly got this setup and this strategy working brilliantly, and they've got a really strong category of drivers as well to pick from, and some that are really showing some better form than I think potentially people would have assumed of them. And now they're here. They're at the top end of the championship, and no one else is even close to them. It is intriguing to see at this level that someone can find that much of an advantage. It really takes me back to the times, 2013, back to even 2010, I think it was 29 when it was with Precision Motorsport and their hands on the title. They were an incredibly strong team back in the day, and this is very much a reminder of that. But we will prepare ourselves for the Grand Prix today. Of course, 44 laps ahead of us here at Spa, and picks for the win are not going to be an easy one. Unfortunately for those who dislike ACR, it's hard to look beyond them. They've qualified 1, 2, and 3. They had their first 1, 2, 3, 4 last time out. They look incredibly dominant. They have been victorious in every Grand Prix this season. Martin Gosby has won every time from the pole that he has taken. That was back in Great Britain, his home Grand Prix, and in Germany has pole position here, continuing his good form since he's jumped over to ACR. But the slipstream will be paying a big effect here. Now, the last thing that we want is 2014 style Mercedes driving at Spa, where they take each other out, and then to be fair, it'll be interesting, wouldn't it? But we prepare ourselves for that Grand Prix, and the tensions are definitely high in the camp, aren't they, Cameron?
The tensions certainly are. Who will lead into Les Combes at the end of Sector 1 is really what we have to talk about, because of that slipstream down the back straight on the Kemmel Straight. So even if Gosby leads into Turn 1, he might not lead as we get to the end of Sector 1.
Yeah, not too long ago in Formula One, I think Perez qualified 4th or something like that, and I was having a conversation with a friend of mine, and I said that I reckon that car might be leading at the end of lap 1. And then he said, "Fine, I'll put a bet on it." And he put £5 on that Perez would lead a lap. And going into Les Combes, Perez was side by side for the lead, and I was just like, "Oh, so close." Good call though, but that's because they were running such a low downforce setup, and obviously that translates very well into sim racing. The whole low downforce in the fact that we have ridiculous slipstream. But the person who's going to have to defend from all of that from his teammates on pole position is Martin Gosby at the head of the field, ahead of Robin Panzer. Not the ACR that I was expecting on the front row, but definitely one on good form. Has had a podium this season, but only one, which in comparison to the rest of his teammates might seem a little bit odd, but is still a very good run of form in the World Championship. Jene Simoncic in 3rd position, Janis Brakshock in 4th. What can he do? Can Ghost Speed move their way up very far down the order? Jos Araneda, another team at the bottom of the standings. They surely can make some progress with their qualifying at the moment. 5th and 9th with Michi Hoyer. We'll get to that in a second. Ricardo Costa in 6th position. Mohamed Patel in 7th, ahead of Michele D'Alessandro, the world champion, in 8th position. Michi Hoyer rounds off 9th position. As I said, those teammates for ground effect surely should be moving their way up the order. We'll have to wait and see. Daniel Kish in 10th position. The last one starting on the ultra soft tyre. Jeffrey Fournier starting in 11th. He is on the soft compound tyre. Made that strategy work to brilliant effect back in... something going off up ahead. Back in France, though, where he took a podium, a historic podium for HME Oramilla. Currently in 11th position, ahead of Peter Burlak in 12th. And Eric Andre in 13th position. Lukashek in 14th. And Ivanov, who's moved over. He did the Hungarian Grand Prix for the Jean Lacey Esports Academy, but now moves over to NetRec. So has started from 15th position this time out. Then we've got Morocek, who is down in 16th. Considering he's an ACR driver, that is a long way down the order. Stephen Michaels in 17th position had that great drive at the German Grand Prix. Currently in 17th position. Hopefully he can move his way up the order, as Giordano Valeriano down in 18th position, ahead of his Frammy teammate Yuri Kazdorp. Of course, the new livery on that car. Bogdanov rounds out the runners that are actually on circuit at the moment, as Kostas Galanamotas is starting from the pit lane. But Cameron, who do you think is taking victory today? Do you think it's coming in that ACR camp, or do you think someone is going to spring a lovely Spa surprise on us?
I would not be surprised if it was any of the top 3 today, and even Martin Gosby, because if he wants to win this championship, he really needs to win the next couple of races. However, Janos Brakshock there, P4 for Ghost Speed. He's had some good races recently. I would not put him out of contention just yet. He would be the person I would look out for in this race.
Yeah, they'll line themselves up on the grid now. those of you that do this as a hobby will know that when you're lining up on the grid, your heart rate is running. I would love to see what my heart rate is prior to a Grand Prix, because I'm sure a lot of people would suggest it's very unhealthy for a lot of these drivers. But believe me, the tension is high on this grid. Formula Sim Racing World Championship, round 9 of the season, and things preparing for our 44-lap Grand Prix. We've got ACR 1, 2, and 3 at the top end of the field. One driver starting from the pit lane. 20 drivers starting on the grid. 44 laps ahead of us. The 5 lights will be out now, and it is a great start from Jerne Simicic. I think it's going to jump. Oh, a bit of contact between the teammates of Robin Panzer, who comes across. Panzer going to try and go around the outside, looking further down in the background. They're side by side as that was Robin Panzer massively wide at La Source. He's now going to be overtaken by Janis Brakshock. They're going to be side by side down the hill with Mohamed Patel. Side by side. Oh, there's contact between the two. And that's Robin Panzer massively off the road through the gravel track. And that is terrible for him. From second position all the way down to the back end of the order, Martin Gosby now under heavy attack from Ricardo Costa. Oh, there's contact between the two of them as Jerne Simicic and Martin Gosby go side by side up into Les Combes. Ricardo Costa have absolutely nowhere up in the third position. Janis Brakshock in fourth, all over the back of them as well. McGlade D'Alessandro has made some decent progress up in the fifth position as Ricardo Costa's looking down the inside of Jerne Simicic at the top end of the field. Oh, he's pushed him out wide. Jerne Simicic down to third position as Ricardo Costa looking to mount a serious challenge for HME or a Miller. Has done a fantastic job now in second position on the hunt for Martin Gosby. But Martin Gosby trying to break that slipstream as much as he can. He's currently got, I'd say, nearly a second already on Ricardo Costa, but that'll probably come down as we head towards the bus stop chicane on the end of the first lap. Jerne Simicic leads Janis Brakshock, McGlade D'Alessandro, and Mohamed Patel have made some decent progress up the order. Jos Araneda in 7th position has dropped down from 5th. Daniel Kish in 8th position. Mitchie Hoyer and Petter Burlak rounding out the top 10. Burlak's made a decent little bit of progress from 12th up to 10th. And of course, the big loser on the first lap, Robin Panzer, down in 20th position. The last people that started on the grid. Oh, terrible first lap for Panzer.
Yeah, that was really not what Panzer wanted or needed if he wants to get any sort of result in this race. And I'm going to actually grab a replay now from the view of Robin Panzer. He goes really wide at turn 1, which pushes him already back into the pack. He's already down into, he's going to be about 5th position. Let's go to the track camera of him. He is side by side with number 11. That is Mohamed Patel. Tiny bit of contact. Oh, that's all it was. But then he loses all his momentum going through the gravel, and that is him down into 20th place.
Yeah, for me, coming down into Eau Rouge, come on, it's the first lap. Be a little bit calmer. Just breathe out of it a little bit. Oh, a massive moment I just saw at the top of the hill. Radion for Yuri Kazdorp, currently down in 16th position, trying to make a move on Bogdanov. I think he'll be making this one. Stickers Valeriano directly behind as well. There was a huge snap at the top of the hill, which is not what you want on the second lap. These tyres should be in pristine condition at this point. To have lost the rear already just a little bit, that'll really set your confidence a lot lower at this point. I did notice that Ricardo Costa closed into Martin Gosby a little bit, but has managed to pull away from Janis Brakshock as they closed that first sector out, though I think everything's returned to about a second between them. And do you know what? I think Martin Gosby might have already broken DRS here.
Yeah, we'll have to see as we come on to this next lap, as it is lap 3, which is when the DRS gets activated. But in the background on that on the lap we are on now, Brakshock has gone up into 3rd place. He got past Jerne Simicic, yeah. So the championship leader is now down into 4th place, and in fact he's dropped off a little bit as well. So this is what I'm saying. Brakshock, he's looking feisty, and he is on a podium position right now.
Yeah, bizarre for Simicic. If he finishes in 4th position, obviously a long way to go in this Grand Prix, but if he finishes in that 4th position, it'll be his first time finishing off the podium in the 2019 season, which when your closest rival in the championship, yes, a long way back, could be winning the race. That's not what you want, because that is a lot of points to lose in one race. But we'll have to wait and see how that one unfolds. Currently, Ricardo Costa 1.4 seconds from the back of Martin Gosby. Gosby is running away as quick as he can. Ricardo Costa, got to be said, has done an incredible job here to get up into 2nd position. Very, very good. Janis Brakshock I think, a little bit too far back to make anything stick on Riccardo Costa at the moment.
But Araneda is close enough to Mohamed Patel this time round, but not quite late enough on the brakes, and he stays in 7th position. But ground effect as well, looking good. So some better performances for some teams so far. For John Alesi as well, they haven't scored a point for I think 4 races, and ground effect as well. So they are looking good today.
Yeah, Jos Araneda retirement from the previous 2 Grand Prix. He's done. Has set the fastest lap of the race back in Britain, but didn't score any points for all of his troubles. Has only scored points on 1 occasion this season, and that came at the Canadian Grand Prix quite a while ago. Down in 7th position at the moment in this Grand Prix, but things are looking rosy for ground effect as they try and move their way up the order on the team's front, currently scoring points for 7th and 9th position as Michi Hoyer is doing a good job. Peter Burlak currently the one highest up on your order, by the way, of those on the alternate strategy. Of course, only moved up into 10th position courtesy of Robin Panzar's departure from the top 10. Coming into bus stop, no one making anything stick quite just yet. Certainly the 2 big overtaking opportunities will be that down into the bus stop chicane and up into Les Combes. Wow, Riccardo Costa, terrible putting on the power out of La Source already. I don't think Janis Brakshaw was much better because he's not really closed in. Curiosity on Jerne Simicic's pace. Qualified in 3rd position, low for him realistically, but not able to keep up with the HME Oramilla and the ghost speed of Riccardo Costa and Janis Brakshaw. Brakshaw not quick enough in a straight line to make anything stick, but he has run wide slightly at Les Combes as he heads through the final bit of that. Just not over the back of him at the moment, but we've got colourful scenes at the top end of FSR's World Championship at the moment as ACR struggling with a question mark. I'm not really too sure if we can count this as struggling, but in their camp and their results, I guess 1st and 4th isn't so great.
Yeah, you would expect them to at least get probably 2 cars on the podium at every single Grand Prix, it has to be said. And at the moment, they've only got 1. But do not count out Jerne Simicic. There's still 41 laps to go, and he has plenty of time to sort out strategy, because with us having the 3 softest compounds, these ultra soft tyres aren't really going to go much more than maybe even 7 laps. So we'll have to see how that works out, because they will still have plenty of distance in this race after that, even with this being the shortest race of the season in terms of lap count.
So we're definitely talking the area of a 2 stop for most, but 1 stop for those maybe a little bit further down the order as Jos Araneda all over the back of Mohamed Patel. No, not quite anything sticking. Carry on.
Yeah, no, I don't think anyone's going to 1 stop. You'd lose far too much time saving tyres. I would say most people are going to 2 stop, and some will be 3 stopping this afternoon. Mm-hmm. But we'll have to see how that works out, because if you're 3 stop, you need to be able to overtake.
And to be able to overtake, realistically, you're going to need a low downforce setup to allow opportunity to take effect as it arises. But who is running the right setup? At this point, we can't really know. But realistically, Martin Gosby, 1.4 seconds at the front of the field. I know exactly what he's going to be doing at the moment. He's going to be looking after everything. He was very smart. He played his cards absolutely perfectly back at the German Grand Prix. Was very, very careful with how he played out his race and how he controlled things at the top end of the field. Despite pressure coming from Jerne Simicic, was able to take victory. Then actually was ACR, as ACR is, not including ACR Blue. It was ACR's first 1-2 of the season. ACR did have a 1-2 back in Canada when it was ACR and then ACR Blue, when Martin Gosby was an ACR Blue. It was a little bit confusing then, but they've had back-to-back 1-2 finishes at the German Grand Prix and at the Hungarian Grand Prix, and so far Jerne Simicic's pace isn't quite as convincing enough to suggest it's going to be the same affair today as they head out of Curve Pool Fret. I've also noticed that I think at the moment we've got a bit of a slipstream train, right? Whilst everyone's looking after their fuel, looking after their tyres, trying to make this stint stretch as long as it can, making sure they don't overdo the engine at this point, because the thing is no one's able to quite slipstream up to the back of someone else because someone else is already slipstreaming them.
Yeah, it's one of those. It is one of those weird weird things, because this will happen in the first stint, but as the stints go on and we get into the second stint and people have different pit stops, people lose time at the end of their stint because of tyre wear. That's when we're going to see these gaps spread out a little bit more. And right now, I wouldn't say any driver is pushing absolutely 100%, because this is the most fragile tyre. And I'm sure we'll see most drivers using the soft compound, the more durable compound, as we go on into the race. But you have to use at least 2 of the 3 dry compound tyres within the race. So most of these top 10 drivers are using them now, and they are just sort of sacrificing their pace at the moment to make sure they get far enough into the race to not screw their strategy.
Yeah, down in 14th position, Rodger, moving up from the back of the field. Obviously, he qualified down in 16th position. ACR Blue not having a good Belgian Grand Prix so far, down in 14th and 19th, but he's just made his way past the fresh liveried Yuri Kasdorp for Frami Autosport, doing a solid job. At the moment, it's Rodger trying to move his way back up the order. Oh, Yuri Kasdorp absolutely clattered the wall there at the corner with no name. That would surely give him some dark blue damage, as it were, on the right-hand side of that car. That was not a pretty hit.
And that's not going to help his pace either, if he has got some damage, because when you get a bit of aero damage... Oh, who's blown the engine? Rodger has blown his engine.
Oh.
On, was this the 4th lap of the race? How on earth has he done that? How on earth has he blown it up on the 4th lap of this race? I'm just going on the replay now, but I don't think there's going to be anything special apart from...
Maybe
it's just going to die.
Quickly.
Well, this was on acceleration, so
was it?
that was just the car dying from wear. And the only reason you can do that in 4 or 5 laps is because of the boost.
Oh,
wow.
Interesting things at the top end of the field. We've completed 6 laps. You said 7, but we've got our first driver into the pit lane. Janis Brakshock, dropping down the order naturally as you would do on your first pit stop, is now going to drop down into absolutely last place as Galana Mattis gets by.
Ooh, Ultra Softs again.
Is it Ultra Softs? I've got Softs on my screen.
Or maybe it just hasn't updated, but it's definitely pink for me now. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if he is on the Softs, but my screen currently showing he is on the Ultra Soft compound, but we'll see if that updates. Sometimes rFactor 2 does that. But he is going to he's going to have an undercut. So Ricardo Costa will have to think about what he does this lap. Oh yes, it's just updated now. He is on the soft compound tyres, you are correct. But we'll have to see what Ricardo Costa does now, because Brakshock could be taking 2nd place in this race in a minute and a half's time.
Yeah, but what Janis Brakshock doesn't want is the not so much back marker, is he? Still on the lead lap and fighting fair is Galana Mattis directly ahead of him. Had to start from the pit lane, did Costas. Currently down in 19th position, but is sitting ahead of Janis Brakshock, who really wants to get on with this, wants to get by, and wants to fight, even potentially for a victory. I mean, obviously that would take a very severe undercut, but at the same time, it's not exactly impossible. One thing that I did note was that Jene Simicic, as soon as that gap for Brakshock was dropped as he came into the pit lane, Simicic immediately filled it.
Costa in, Simicic in. Oh, D'Alessandro stays out, Patel stays out. Yosin, oh god, so many drivers coming in the pit lane. So the drivers who were all leading have gone in. The drivers who are slightly behind maybe could save a little bit more tyres. And let's see where Martin Gosby comes out and what tyres he puts on.
He's going to put on the soft compound tyre. You see Jene Simicic going around him and pitting in the box directly ahead. Martin Gosby leaves the pit lane.
Brakshock? Brakshock is coming round, and he has not undercut.
Not going. No,
it has not worked out for him.
I thought he just wasn't going to gain anything behind Galana Mattis. Jene Simicic, though, is coming down the hill, and Galana Mattis has got by him. So that's bad for Jene Simicic. This happened back in Germany as well, with Simicic getting caught up in traffic. Now Jene's going to have to overtake him, but it's not going to cost him too much time. As Jeffrey Fournier as well, dropping down the order. I think he's spun off at Les Combes. Jeffrey Fournier down in 13th position. We'll have to take a look at what actually happened to him. Jene Simicic now past Costas Galana Mattis. So now back up into 18th position. But
I'm getting a replay of Jeff Fournier now. Goes around Les Combes. I think that is Michi Hoyer. And oh yes, it was Peter Burlak. Okay, so Peter Burlak spun. And in doing so, he basically forced Hoyer and Jeff to spin as well. So they both lost probably about 5 or 6 seconds there. And probably didn't harm their tyres too much because it was fairly low speed spin. But that was actually from Peter Burlak, who was the leading man on the soft compound tyre. He's now lost about 4 or 5 seconds to Lukaszek, who's in that position now.
Yeah, Lukaszek the highest on the opposing strategy. They're 3 ahead of McGlade, D'Alessandro, Mohamed Patel and Daniel Kish. All potentially be heading into the pit lane quite soon. D'Alessandro comes straight in. Daniel Kish stays out. So does Mohamed Patel. So a few drivers just trying to stretch this ultra soft compound out as much as they possibly can. Martin Gosby now all over the back of Bogdanov as a few other drivers are entering the pit lane. I saw Stephen Michaels, Michi Hoyer into the pit lane. What have you spotted?
I know, I was just trying to keep up with all the cameras because everyone jumping in the pit lane. But Martin Gosby has got traffic. Martin Gosby has Bojan Bogdanov starting on a soft compound tyre. He is not going to be pitting for probably another 5 laps or so. So Gosby needs to get past this traffic, otherwise he's going to lose time and lose his DRS window, which he already has done to Ricardo Costa.
Curious that Fournier came into the pit lane as well, because I'm pretty sure he started on the soft compound tyre, but he's already stopped and now come out in 20th position. He's also got a smoky engine down in 20th place after that pit stop, so not
Crash.
quite what he wanted.
Who has
Yuri Kazdorp.
Crash? I've got a replay on the screen now. Where does he lose this then?
Oh.
Okay then. He obviously wasn't having a good time and decided to crash his car.
That's bizarre.
So not really too sure what that was all about. It hasn't been the year for Yuri Kazdorp or Frami Autosport, unfortunately. It is the debut for that team, the debut for Kazdorp, and Valeriano was the ace champion of last year. Kazdorp a very, very quick rFactor 2 driver in other series as well. So I did have quite good hopes for that team, but unfortunately it hasn't worked out for them this season. That is another DNF.
Yeah, see, I wonder that baffles me. I'm assuming there might be some sort of more of an issue to that than, because he's not the kind of guy that gives up. Is Yuri Kazdorp. It's one thing that I definitely know about him is Mohamed Patel, Daniel Kish, and Eric Andre come into the pit lane. And Eric Andre currently on the super soft tyre, going to stop and probably come out on the softs. All 3 of them, they do indeed.
So Costa and Brakshuk have also got past Bogdanov now. It is just Yerny Simicic who will probably breeze past him because he's very close on this straight. But because of that has given Martin Gosby a little bit of a breather. Obviously, this is the net first place. Drivers ahead are all on these soft compound tyres. They have all yet to pit, and they will.
Apart from Panzer.
I have Panzer's on the ultra soft compound. Yes, You are correct. He might be trying a 2-stop strategy.
Oh.
Whereas I think some of the others might be trying a 3-stop. We'll see how far they get these soft compound tyres.
Yeah, I see Yerny Simicic did get by Bogdanov, actually opened the door with a little bit of contact between the two of them to allow McGlade D'Alessandro to get through. So D'Alessandro now up into 10th position, and realistically, I'd say he's looking as strong as he did at the start of the season when he had a decent result. And realistically, without being super harsh, some like the only decent results he had were 4th, 2nd, 5th and 5th, which are good, obviously. D'Alessandro is a world champion, though. Obviously not going to be happy with that, not going to be content with that. Currently, I believe once everything pits and comes out in the correct order, he should be running in 5th position. So he's back on that form after 2 retirements, but surely will want to move his way a little bit further up the order.
Yeah, driver of his caliber is definitely capable of winning races. And he will, I'm sure he will get back to that level. Not really had the best season so far, as we discussed, but he still has the potential to do so. Just needs to work out this car, work out his season, and see what happens going forward.
Panzer into the pit lane. He's going to leave it down in probably 18th position, I think, by the time he gets to the end of it.
And we got Petr Burlak here. So this is a fight for what is now 2nd place. Viktor Ivanov and Petr Burlak going side by side, but that is easy peasy for the 2015 world champion up into 2nd place after losing some time with that spin in or half spin really in Les Combes. Has to make up that time now.
I don't know what happened to Brakshuk, but I think Brakshuk jumped behind Yerny Simicic and then responded. I have to get a replay of that. McGlade D'Alessandro also hit the back of Jene Simicic in that.
Yeah, let's have a look. So coming up through Eau Rouge and Radion, Brakshock is in the lead of this pair, and Jene Simicic has got, well, he's got a really nice slipstream. He's possibly using a bit of quali boost as well. Moves over to go round the outside, and yeah, there's a bit of contact on the entry. And Michaela actually bumped the rear of Jene, as Jene had to kind of check up a little bit to avoid any further contact with Brakshock. But yeah, that was all pretty fair game. Not too much either could have done about that. Some nice hard racing into Les Combes.
Yeah, just one of those racing things. I think Jene was trying to be a little bit aggressive and try and make that move stick as early as possible. Obviously trying to get on with his race. Towards the front, though, we've got Valeriano and Ivanov both into the pit lane as Martin Gosby was lining up a move. Yes, those two already into the pit lane on the soft compound tyre. So it leaves Gosby with just Peter Berlak and Lukaszek to retake the lead here of the Belgian Grand Prix.
But Costa's dropped back to about 2 seconds behind now, so he's well out of DRS. Martin has a bit of control. He can sort of decide what he wants to do. But even further back now is Brakshock. Brakshock is 3 seconds behind, and I think Jene Simicic is going to be breezing past him on this lap. He's a lot further past, but it seems ACR have slightly higher wings because it's not the easiest overtake in the world, but he still manages to make that move. So Jene Simicic is now up back onto a net podium place.
Which is what he wants. Obviously, he wants to continue this podium streak that he has at the moment, having finished on the podium in every Grand Prix this season. In fact, actually, I'm going to go and look now as to when the last time he didn't finish on the podium was, because I'm sure that'll be an interesting stat.
I would guess Suzuka last year, because he DNF'd.
Yeah, no, I want to know when he last finished off the podium, which, oddly enough, was here. Last season.
Yeah, this was a definitely a Musto race last year. I remember it was Patel and Berlak and D'Alessandro, who was actually in the Sabema team. So it was really the Musto group as they were back then. They really controlled this race last year, and then Michaela got a drive-through penalty, which is actually what cost him the win, really. And that's what started Berlak's form towards the end of the season, as we spoke about earlier. And we've now got Daniel Kish on the back of Bogdanov. He's going to go down the inside of Blanchimont. That is always a really nice move to make into one of the fastest corners in the world, really. And that is Daniel Kish up into 9th place. And what is Lukaszek doing? He is making a pit stop, finally, on lap 13.
Bogdanov as well, straight into the pit lane. Yeah, it's always one of those moves. Gosby.
Who's around?
Gosby. P7.
He stopped.
What's happened?
Is this a hardware failure? Let's have a look. I am going on board with him right now. So he's coming into lap 1 about 20 seconds ago. He can't downshift. He is stuck in 7th gear.
Oh my goodness me. He's got into 2nd gear now. He's now in 3rd.
So yes, so his wheel disconnected, I think. Or something like that. Or maybe he unplugged his wheel on purpose. And he's now back going as I go back to live. So I think something happened with his wheel. So he had to disconnect and reconnect his wheel, which is why the wheel went far left, because the axis was removed from his computer. And that, unfortunately, has cost him victory here today, because with the level of this field, there's no way he's going to be getting back to a win at least, but he certainly has a potential to get some points here today for his Avid Chronic Racing team. But that is heartbreak for him.
Who does that open the door to, though? We've got Peter Berlak in the lead of the race, 5 seconds ahead of Ricardo Costa, the first man to have stopped on the order. Jene Simicic is now going to be fighting hard to continue this 100% record that ACR have in victories this season. Ricardo Costa looks realistically like the only man to be able to stop that at the moment. Heartbreak on the hands of Martin Gosby as well, after having such a good form since he's joined ACR. Now way down the order, down in 18th position, 32 seconds off of the lead of the race. You're absolutely right. If he can come back from that, I will eat all of my clothes.
I'll tell you someone who's having a good race, I've just noticed, is an Eric Andre. He is in P8. He's made a pit stop. So he's effectively P7. So I have to see how that works out. But he started down in about 14th place, I want to say, and he is up into 7th. So we'll have to see how that goes for him. And his teammate, Stephen Michaels, is also just not far
Oh.
behind as well. What's
McGlade
happened?
D'Alessandro's just gone past Janis Brackshock.
Yes.
And
Yes.
Jos Arenado's not too far behind either.
I do wonder what Brackshock's tyre wear is like, because he was dropping off Gosby. He's now got overtaken by Simoncic. He's now... he dropped off Costa, then he got overtaken by Simoncic and now D'Alessandro. So I wonder if he is ruining his tyres a little bit too much, but he's still in the hunt for this podium.
He did pit a lap earlier than everyone else. He pitted on lap 6. Everyone else started their pit stop sequence on basically on lap 7. I believe it's actually one of the things that also cost him last time out from a decent result after qualifying in a really good spot. He ended up dropping down the order. Let me just double check. He qualified in 3rd position, so one better than today. Ended up finishing in 6th position on a bizarre strategy where he pitted a little bit off sequence with everyone else, but still 3 stopped. But I do think he struggled with his tyres there, ended up further down the order than he really would have wanted, but he's seems content with the 5th at the moment. Obviously, McGlade D'Alessandro now moved himself up into a potential podium position, which would be great for their team to reset themselves for the second half of 2019.
Yeah, that is right. We've just come back from the summer breaks. We are entering the second half. We are on round 19 of 14. So we had 8 races in the first half, 6 in the second half. Slightly further spread out. We've got 3 weeks in between each race. So the drivers got plenty of time to prepare. And we've got some of the best races on the calendar. We've got obviously Spa today. We've got Monza next time out. Then we've got Singapore. We've got Kota, Suzuka, and finishing with Brazil. So we've got some nice races to finish off this 2019 championship. But we won't talk about it finishing just yet, because there's still plenty of racing before then, and before we see who is going to be crowned the drivers' champion. However, with Gosby really out of the way this race, we could be talking about Simoncic winning the championship in the next round or two, because he is that far ahead.
Yeah, of course, at the moment finishing in his current position, even if it is 3rd, doesn't really matter. He'd still gain leaps and bounds over Martin Gosby and really put... Well, he's already got one hand to the title. Not quite 2 yet, but he's getting there. There isn't too long left of this championship. Of course, after this, so there's 5 rounds to go on some of motorsport's greatest circuits. That's always what really excited me about the second half of the season doing open wheelers. It's always where the best tracks are, right? You've got your likes of Interlagos, of Suzuka, of Spa, of Monza. It's where all of the really good ones are. And I'm just like, I absolutely love it. I think that was Peter Burlack into the pit lane. It certainly is, to make his first pit stop at the end of lap 15.
So 15. So if he does another... He might be trying to 2-stop. He might be trying to 2-stop. I am expecting some people to 3-stop, but he's gone far enough that he can probably make that 2-stop work.
He's going to have to take the super softs, though, isn't he? Later in the race, obviously, having done 15 laps on these, you'd hope that isn't the limit of the tyre compound, because if not, he's going to be pitting around lap 30, and he can't take the softs again.
We've got Jos Arenado. Even though Brackshock has DRS, Arenado has managed to get up the inside, and he's managed to get a whole car... Oh, yeah, he's got just about a whole car length ahead as we entered the braking zone. So yeah, Brackshock unfortunately can't quite keep the pace here to keep on this podium hunt, but he is still there. There's a decent sized gap behind him to Daniel Kish, and then an Eric Andre as well, who is now actually in P7 after the pit stops.
Yeah, to keep you updated, Peter Burlack jumped down into 12th position, just ahead of Robin Panzar, looking to recover a decent round for himself after the first lap error on his part. Not sure how that strategy is going to work out for any of those lot, but Panzar looked pretty good on his ultra soft tyres earlier in the race, so potentially a 2-stop on his part if he can really stretch these softs. We'll have to wait and see how that one will unfold for him. Obviously, things at the lower end of the points definitely not sorted. Things that definitely aren't sorted as well towards the front end of the field. Jone Simoncic within a second of Ricardo Costa for the first time. And as they head through the bus stop chicane, maybe on the run down to Les Combes, Jone Simoncic will be eyeing him up. Or will he be playing the smart game?
Ooh, who's that in the background? Brackshock already. So this is what I mean. I was expecting some 3-stoppers, and this might just be it because he's not going to get to the end from here. So back onto another
Absolutely
set
not.
of soft tyres. So he pitted really early, so only got about 10 laps.
10.
Maybe 11 laps out of those tyres. So yeah, he's definitely on a 3-stop strategy. I was expecting a couple of people to do this because you can really push further. However, how much he dropped off didn't indicate to me that he's doing a 3-stop because he wants to. It's because he needs to, because he really dropped off, I'm assuming, with some bad tyre wear. And we've got Peter Burlag now in P10 trying to get back into the points. He's going past a ground effect car of Michi Hoyer into Lecom, so he's now back into the points.
Oh, Gosby's out of the race.
Yes,
called it a day.
I saw a message from someone else in ACR who said he doesn't have FFB, force feedback.
Oh,
So that is obviously really, really difficult to drive when you've got to be so precise on the inputs. And unfortunately, this could be ultimately championship over because he really needed to gain points today because he is 68 points behind Gianni Simoncic.
I've only ever had that once in sim racing. I've been racing for 6 and a bit years, and I've only ever had it once. And I will never forget what happened because it was at Kota. It was in a low sort of tier open wheeler, and I set off, and I realised immediately I've not got any force feedback. I didn't have a reset button. Well, it wasn't working anyway. And I was in a reverse grid race. I was leading for most of it, but my times were so much slower, and so I ended up getting overtaken by all the quick people, obviously. But by the end of the race, it wasn't a long race. It was like 25 minutes. I actually felt sick. Like it really does. I cannot describe how it makes you feel, but it is such a bizarre situation when your wheel just isn't giving you anything, even though you know it's supposed to. Yeah, not fun.
It's one of those. It is one of those sort of things. Everything about sim racing, because you don't have the actual G forces on your body and you know you don't have your butt sitting actually on the car. You can't feel it. So everything is about your senses. So your visual senses, your hand-eye coordination, what you feel through the force feedback. And if you lose any one of those senses, it's like just when you're walking in real life and you close your eyes. You know, there's one part of your sense that's gone and you don't really know what you're doing. And unfortunately, that is what has happened to Martin Gosby. And if Jene Simoncic wins this, he will have... I need to do some good maths here. He will have 93-point lead with 5 races to go. So
and he's looking very strong
yeah,
now on Costa.
God, that's going to be really good for him, for Jene Simoncic. When we get to, or if we get to that stage, he's still got to get past Ricardo Costa. Costa, I think I'm right in saying he's only had 1 podium in Formula Sim Racing. I think he got a podium at the back end of last year when he did some reserve races for Twister. But apart from that, he hasn't really had a proper crack at the top spots. But Jene Simoncic is really cutting him down. Who's that gone into the pit lane? Was that Jos Araneda? It was Jos Araneda. 25 laps to go. So, yep, he's going to be on a 3-stop strategy as well.
Yeah, very interesting. But things could definitely work out in that ground effect team to score some decent points here at the Belgian Grand Prix. You're absolutely right about Ricardo Costa and his attempt at the podium. He actually hasn't had a podium before. He did 2 rounds at the end of last season for Twister, as you say, finished 6th and 4th. In those, has had a highest finish this season of 5th position back in the British Grand Prix. So a podium would be a step forward for him, for HME or Miller. 3rd, or I think it's 3rd, is their best result, which was back in France.
Yeah.
In the hands of Geoffrey Fournier, the Frenchman.
We got a spin. Robin Panzar and Michi Hoyer spin at Lecom. They went side by side, and the very, very classic thing in Lecom is when you come through that second apex, the person around the outside goes a little bit quicker, so the wheels get locked and they spun around. Unfortunately, Michi actually did a full 180. God, that's going to really annoy him because he was in a really good position to get some good points for ground effect, and he is now behind Jos, who has already made his pit stop. So it's not the ideal scenario for either of those two who are now 14th and 16th.
Yeah, after looking at that, I think Hoyer needed to give a bit more room to Robin Panzer, obviously previous teammate.
Costa pits. This again,
Oh,
3-stop strategy. 3-stop strategy for Ricardo Costa.
yeah, Portuguese driver. He pushed hard into pit lane. Now I think he might have just clipped the wall on the entry to pit lane. It was actually quite a tricky one. You have walls left, right, and centre. It's a very narrow line, much similar to the likes of pit lane entries, like a Catalunya and places like that, where the pit lane is actually very, very narrow, and you've got to be very accurate. You really have to practice those pit lane entries.
Oh, Ricardo Costa, can he get out in front of this traffic? Yes, he can, but he's going to have Mohamed Patel right behind him. This is going to be crucial. This is going to be absolutely crucial for his race. If he can keep these cars behind him, he's going to struggle so much because Patel's going to have DRS. He's not going to have much slipstream, but he's certainly going to have DRS. He was barely missing the Portuguese driver, and this is crucial for Costa's race if he wants to win this, because he's now going to lose time behind Mohamed Patel. And Mohamed Patel is not really in contention for the win today. And this will annoy Costa no end. He's got to look down the inside, but he can't quite get his front wing alongside the British driver.
We very much have a team game going here, though. Mohamed Patel currently has his teammate McGlade D'Alessandro all over the back of Jurnej Simoncic, looking for his first victory of the season. So he wants to keep Ricardo Costa behind. He wants to help his teammate win that first race of the season. Jeffrey Fournier, directly behind Ricardo Costa, is obviously Ricardo Costa's teammate. So he's surely not going to attack his teammate, who potentially could be fighting for victory this afternoon, or even for the podium. You don't want to fight your teammate in that position. You want to be the good guy. You want to help that scenario. But Ricardo Costa now being held up by a previous world champion. Yeah, I was going to say either McGlade or Jurnej Simoncic pitted, but it was Jurnej.
Yeah, Jurnej has pit, which meant he is also on a 3-stop as well. So this is interesting. Most people are going slightly aggressive, and Costa is going to have to try and make this move around the outside. If he can keep his front wing in there. Oh, yes, he couldn't quite keep his front wing in there. Patel certainly did a really hard defense. And where does this put Jurnej Simoncic as they come out of La Source? We are going to have a look. Where is Simoncic? Yes, he's ahead. This is crucial. Jurnej Simoncic now takes the lead of this race after being down in 4th place some 10 laps ago.
Oh, I can't.
Oh no, Costa. Oh no.
They're going to be side by side at Eau Rouge. And up over Radion. He's going to catch the slipstream though. As Ricardo Costa, as he's trying to move his way up the order and keep himself in contention for this afternoon's victory, but it's not worked. And Janis Brackshot now coming out of absolutely nowhere. This is a very, very stout defence for Mohamed Patel. He's going to have to go around the outside. Ricardo Costa. They've come together as Mohamed Patel has just come off the apex a little bit, and Ricardo Costa is round. Potential victory out the window. Potential podium as well. Sitting by the wayside as Ricardo Costa drops down into 12th position. Very aggressive attacking and defence on the part of Ricardo Costa and Mohamed Patel. Oh my goodness me, that one is definitely going to need a replay and some analysis.
Yeah, I'm getting on the replay now. I'm going to see if I can get a helicopter view as well, and you can see that they are just so close coming into Lake Com. Costa's actually around the outside, but he doesn't quite leave enough room. Front to rear wheel contact. They both spin. And Mohamed Patel as well going around 180. Brackshot did well to avoid, and Jos as well. Jos Araneda. Patel actually hit the wall, so he might have some suspension damage.
He's out of the race. Mohamed Patel was retired from the race. McGlade D'Alessandro, his teammate, comes into the pit lane.
So where is Jurnej Simoncic? Because Jurnej is going to have gotten an undercut, although it looks like he was held up a little bit there by Giordano Valeriano. So let's go on board with McGlade D'Alessandro. Also takes soft compound tyre.
Oh, way ahead. Jurnej Simoncic is absolutely way ahead. I think D'Alessandro might even be under risk if being overtaken by Janis Brackshot down into Eau Rouge and up towards Lake Com. So things working very rosy for Jurnej Simoncic at the moment. He was knocked off of the podium earlier, but potentially could be up for the full 25 at the end of the race. We're approaching that halfway point. Jos Araneda all over the back. Oh, Janis Brackshot was eyeing up the potential of overtaking D'Alessandro, but Jos Araneda is now eyeing up the potential of overtaking him. Nothing happening at Lake Com though, as Janis Brackshot just manages to hang on the brakes.
God, what a race! What a race this has been so far as we come to the halfway stage, as you say. this is what I said. Once you get past that first stint and everyone sort of works out what they want to do with their tyres and all that sort of stuff, that's when the gaps start forming and people start getting a bit more desperate with their overtaking. Costa, I have to say, I mean, that's probably definitely towards his side of fault, but he really had to go for that if he wanted to get this win. You can barely beat Jone Simčić on a bad day, which is being proven here today. So he really needed to get that overtake done, but it wasn't quite to be. And we now have Daniel Kish leading this race, still out on his second stint.
Yeah, it's a shame for Ricardo Costa, but like you say, maybe had to give just a little bit more room whilst trying to make that move stick. Daniel Kish now enters the pit lane. Lukaszek also enters the pit lane. So Daniel Kish's teammate Peter Burlak is going to take the lead of the race. 2015 World Champion, leading our World Championship leader now. McGlade D'Alessandro, the World Champion at the moment. So everything very spicy at the top between all of these FSR World Championship top runners. But realistically, you'd have to suggest that Peter Burlak's going to make that pit stop. Maybe he's not actually in contention for a podium this afternoon. Do you know who that leaves in contention for a podium this afternoon? Of all people, ground effect. Jos Araneda, he's going to be side by side and way ahead of Brakshock even before we get to the Les Combes. And so he's up into fourth.
Up the back, we've now got Ricardo Costa trying to get past Daniel Kish. The number 88 and the number 99 go side by side, and that's Ricardo Costa up into he's up into 7th place. But Daniel Kish is on the super soft compound. He's the first driver to use a super soft compound after a pit stop. So I wonder if this is him going on the attack, knowing that he's slightly further down, wants to get higher up. I have to see how this works out for him. But Ricardo Costa will have definitely ruined his rear tyres, having to spin the car back around after that contact with Mohamed Patel.
Yeah, Lukaszek also on the super soft compound, as well as Giordano Valeriano, everyone else on the soft compound tyre at the moment. But potentially this is a bit of guinea pig work that Daniel Kish is doing for his teammate Peter Burlak, of course. I say guinea pig work, he was one ahead, so it wouldn't really make much sense. How far Peter Burlak will go further into this race. Of course, he did 15 laps on the soft compound earlier, but maybe he's just going to get a little bit of information on those supers coming into his final stop later on, if he is only on a two-stop race. We have to assume so. Jone Simčić, though, 1.2 seconds behind, so very, very close, as Jos Araneda is going to try and close down McGlade D'Alessandro. We know that Jos Araneda maybe has a little bit higher tyre wear than everyone else, as fighting down the order. Bogdanov comes into the pit lane. We've got Ivanov on the back of Galanamatis at T1 as well. These two jumping in for this round. Ivanov did the previous round for a different team, but now jumps in this one for Netrex, I believe it is, as they run down the hill towards Eau Rouge.
So further ahead, we got Daniel Kish now coming back at Ricardo Costa, even though he has DRS, he's managed to get past as well. So this fight definitely isn't over for the middle part of the points. And I tell you what, Peter Burlak, if he can keep this pace on a two-stop, he is looking at a podium position today, because he also has one more stop and he is ahead. So if he can not lose enough time, he will need to pit in about... Oh, it's going to be difficult. He's going to have to pit probably in about 5 to 6 laps time, go to the super softs and stretch them a little bit. So it's not going to be easy, but if he can do that and keep some decent pace, he might be looking at a podium place today.
I know Burlak, and I know how good he is on his tyres. He can be a mightily impressive driver on his tyres. And remember that if he can keep ahead, if he can do that, that gives him the quicker compound of tyre on the undercut as well. So things could actually be looking a bit more rosy in the hands of Edge Esports. Of course, he'll be getting information fed to him by Daniel Kish.
And he is now actually going past Robin Panzar as well. He's slipstreamed. He's gone round the outside of the final chicane. He's actually miles ahead because Panzar is slowing down to go in the pit lane. So Kish now up into P6. And I tell you what, Kish is having a slightly quiet race. He's just a little bit back from the leading lot, but he's doing a good job there in 6th place so far.
Yeah, it's quite an impressive drive from Kish. Realistically so far, he qualified ahead of his teammate. Things haven't quite worked out so well for him this this round, but potentially things are looking a bit better, as scored points on 3 previous occasions in the World Championship this season. One of them was a podium, on the podium with his teammate back in Azerbaijan. Peter Berlak started the season with 3 podiums, hasn't been on the podium since though, and leading this race, was victorious here last season, so knows how to win at this circuit.
He is getting chased down by Yerny Simicic though. Simicic is definitely closing that gap. He knows what he has to do, because if he can win this race and be those 93 points ahead, he can pretty much fall asleep for a couple of races, and that'll put him in such good position for the remainder of this championship. So he's really going to want to win this. I don't know how hard he's going to fight this, because he must know that Berlak is going to be on older tyres. He's not going to want to fight too hard, because he doesn't want to destroy his tyres. So I do wonder how Yerny is going to approach this, as he is now within striking distance.
Yerny Simicic will know how good Peter Berlak is though, and Berlak is definitely one to approach with definitely a good head, because he is a very, very smart driver. But this time with Slipstream, with DRS, Yerny Simicic will be a force to be reckoned with. I've just been looking through the stats book, and the previous 2 times that Berlak has raced here at Spa, he has been victorious on both occasions. However, this time, to take him out of race lead, Yerny Simicic is going to be side by side in the run towards Les Combes, and this should be job done. Per Berlak doesn't really fight. He's just going to try and keep in that slipstream and keep as close as possible. But on the more worn tyres, is that going to be a possibility? He's raced here 3 times in the World Championship. 2 of those have been victories on Berlak's part. But Simicic looking to really take control today.
Yeah, so it's weird to see how much McGlade actually dropped off as well, because he was right behind him. He lost a little bit of time in the pit stop, but he's really sort of dropped off Simicic as well. Having said that, it is good to see McGlade up in this, what is pretty much net 2 at the moment, because he's only got 1 podium this year, hasn't he? If I remember rightly, you saying before.
Yeah.
So he's
at, China.
Yeah, so it'd be really good to see the Jean Lacey Esports Academy coming back up onto that podium.
Yeah, another team, they came into this season with so much potential, of course, signing the previous 2 world champions, but for whatever reason, something hasn't clicked. Now, we've seen this time and time again, not just across sim racing or even in real motorsport. We see this across sport in general, whether it's cycling or football or whatever, where you have all of these ingredients that should work, that absolutely should work to an absolute T and give you such a dominant run that it's not even funny. Yet, for some reason, there is something that just does not click. And that is exactly what's happened at Jean Lacey Esports here. Because they've got effectively the 2 men on form the previous 2 seasons, and yet they're struggling to get podiums. The 2 previous world champions are struggling to get podiums. That's baffling to me.
We got Lukashek now coming to get past Ricardo Costa. Lukashek on these super soft compound tyres, slightly different strategy to some around him, but that is him up to 7th place. And yeah, what you're saying about Jean Lacey, it is interesting, because Patel didn't win a race last season, and I think that was his first season in WC where he didn't actually win a race. But that just shows you how drivers' form can go up and down if they get on with the car, if the team finds a good setup, a good base to work off. There are many factors, and it is interesting to see how that works as each season progresses. And once again, it just shows how dominant ACR have been so far this year.
Absolutely. I mean, I remember Mohamed Patel going for his, I believe it was his first victory. I mean, he has raced in FSR for a very long time. It was in China.
Years. It's probably 10 years he's been in FSR.
Yeah, exactly. But I think it was 2015 in the World Championship, and he started off the season quite strong. And I remember in China, and he had no peers. He was absolutely dominant. Last lap of the race, I recall he blew his engine, and it was heartbreak. Came back, I think that season, I think he had a couple of wins and finished 2nd. But absolute heartbreak. But from that point on, he had always been sort of like one of the front runners. Of course, won the championship in 2017, and has raced in, has been a real runner in the FSR World Championship for quite a while now. Is definitely one of the becoming one of the more old boys.
Well, he's actually still quite young, to be fair. I think he's only about 24 years old, because he did start about 10 years ago when he was about 13 or 14 years old. So, but in terms of experience, yeah, I would say he's probably done, off the top of my head, like the most races out of anyone, if you include all of the championships put together. And he certainly knows what he's doing when it comes to rFactor 2 as well.
Yeah, it's. I mean, if he's 24, then I'm 24, so it's definitely, he's not old. It's fine. It's perfect.
Yeah, I think he's about
the best
that age.
age.
He's just been around for ages, and it's good to see drivers sticking around, and obviously sort of going in pairs. I mean, him and McGlade have been working together for a number of years now across various different teams and whatnot. And now they're both in the John Lacey Esports Academy, and it's great to have that team as well representing their colours in our championship. It's always good to see bigger organisations, bigger named organisations come into the series.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we like the thing is, we need to keep these names in FSR or in whatever series it is. We need to keep these names in it because it's what grounds the series. I've brought this up before as who's that? Someone coming?
Brackshock.
No. Oh, Brackshock. Yeah, what's someone coming to the pit lane?
Oh.
In potentially for, surely he's gonna have to make another one after this because
Yeah.
I don't think he's getting to the end from this point.
Yeah, we'll
soft
see.
compounds though.
Yeah, but
How long did he do this?
Yeah, but not with his wear. I think he only did 12 laps on this.
Yeah, he did 11. So surely he's going to have to do ultras at the end.
We will see for Brackshock's sake.
But yeah, no, you need to keep these names because the thing is I've always had this thing of with like world champions and stuff. Nico Rosberg did this really, really well in 2016 because he won the world championship and then retired. And he retired for one main reason, because he'd won the world championship and he didn't want Lewis Hamilton to take that away from him, right? And the way to stop that from happening is just to leave. You can't take something off me that you can't take because I'm not there. You can't take it. So if we have these names that stay in FSR, that's great because then when that new champion comes about, the likes of McGlade, D'Alessandro, Mohamed Patel back then, or even Peter Burlak back in 2015, they've had to dethrone someone. And that's the important bit. That's what made Morgan Moran's championship defeat back in 2014 so heartbreaking, I guess. Because it was to Bono Huis, right? It was to the man, the absolute legend, the 5-time. So that's kind of like, you need that history to really balance things. Because if you don't have history, there is no context.
Yeah, and with FSR being around for some 20 years now, it is great to see names sticking around for. I mean, in Patel's case, he's been here for 50 or over 50% of the whole league and the whole club as a whole. So it's good to have that loyalty.
Yeah, loyalty is definitely a currency in sim racing, that is for sure. But refocusing on the race, Valeriano enters the pit lane. Further up the order, Brackshock, after his pit stop, is now on the back of Gallon Matis as they run down the hill out of La Source towards Eau Rouge. And things are calming down here at Spa. But for how long? I think whenever Burlak makes that pit stop, things are about to get very exciting. Janis Brackshock going to be in the DRS and going to overtake the Netrex GP driver, surely nice and simple, up into Les Combes. Galamatis doing a decent job, realistically, having started from the pit lane, but is currently in 13th position ahead of Michi Hoyer. Things not going quite so well from him after that spin with Robin Panzer. So down in 14th for him. But they're still, as a team, Ground Effect is still in a really good spot. Obviously being up there in 4th position for Jos Araneda, so things potentially turning around for the team at the bottom of the championship on the teams front.
Yeah, this race I think is going to be quite good for the championship because obviously Gosby isn't there, Mocek isn't there, so that those two teams at the top of the constructors aren't going to be getting quite as many points, and obviously rFactor up there as well. So when you're near the bottom of the table, like a big result like this, P4, P3, that's really going to jump him up. They've only got, I think it's 2 points or 1 point at the moment.
I think it's 2 or 3. Yeah, absolutely.
Or,
it's not much.
Or something like that. It's not too many at all.
3.
Yeah, 3 points. So if he gets fourth, that is 10 points, I think.
Yeah.
So that is going to be a massive jump up, especially as teams like Flag to Flag only have 6 points, and I think Frammy only have about 4 points as well. Oh no, sorry. I am further back down, but Galano Mattis comes into the pits. He actually, unfortunately, DNF'd, I think, on the first lap of the pro race earlier. So he is going to be very happy to be getting further laps in today.
Yeah, I've been trying to say it as quick as possible so no one can understand if I've actually made an error or not with the name. So that's it. Just attack it. Just sound like you mean it. And I'm sure it's fine. But he's dropped down to the back of the field after I was giving him some rep. Now is on the Supersoft compound. Maybe going to the end of the race. Kind of hard to tell from this point. 14 laps to go, so it is a potential possibility if you're very careful on your tyres. McGlade D'Alessandro has not been able to get by Peter Burlak, the top end. So Burlak has actually moved himself into a very solid position to getting a podium. I think victory has slipped from his hands. As Simic has pulled 5 seconds down the road.
He's in a good position because about 6 laps ago I said he's going to need to get to about lap 30-ish to be able to get to the end on a set of Supersoft tyres, and he's managed to do that while still being fairly comfortably on the podium at least.
And is this the lap? Oh no.
No, so Simic and D'Alessandro are basically going to be doing the same. They're probably going to be going to Supersofts as well. And he is in this position. So this has worked out very well for him. He's kept the pace. But in the background, I saw Jos Araneda. We've also got, who's that? Andre, is that Andre?
No, it's Lukaszek and Ricardo Costa both into the pit lane as well.
So we got 13 laps, including this one left. So I assume most people will be going on to the soft Tom. Oh, hello. Ooh. Ricardo Costa is absolutely blocked in.
Oh, that was close.
Lukaszek, but I mean, there's nothing he could really have done about that. But that would have cost Lukaszek a bit of time.
Hoyer into the pit lane as well. Further down the order, these lot all coming out on the soft compound tyres. So obviously not confident enough to make these supers last to the end of the race. It's all a matter of when for this top lot. When does Simic pit Burlak, D'Alessandro? Is there going to be a bit of an undercut? If I was D'Alessandro, I'd be coming into the pit lane as late as possible. Well, not as late as possible. Sorry. What I mean is I'd be preparing that pit stop to come in. Basically, if Burlak doesn't pit, I come straight in this lap. I would have come in on the last lap, to be fair, and just to try and get the undercut to work. Try and pit show your intent at the last exact moment that you can.
I think it's a bit hard for him because I think Simic will be going to the Supersofts. So McGlade doesn't also want to pit now and be too early for the Supersofts because then he'll just lose the race anyway. So he's really going to need to keep out. His issue is that Burlak now is kind of in his way a little bit, and I'm going to guess Petter's coming in now. Yes,
he certainly is.
Because this is 12 laps to go. 12 laps will be doable at decent pace with this fuel tank, and this also means drivers around him are probably also going to the Supersofts as well. So let's see what he does. Yep, Supersoft compound tyres. Who's that? Stephen Michaels and an Eric Andre as well. So both flags coming in as well. Also on this 3-stop strategy.
A real superb drive for an Eric Andre so far at the Belgian Grand Prix. Going to go on to the soft compound tyre for the pair of them.
We've got Peter Burlak has come out ahead of Jos Araneda. So Peter Burlak is now legit on the podium after strategy as well.
And on Supersofts at the moment, we'll see this timing screen light up. I've noticed that Daniel Kish has done 10 laps presently on his Supersoft tyre, so I'd expect that Kish will be in for another set of supers to go to the end of the Grand Prix. But Burlak will be trying to make as much time up as he can on this outlap to try and stay ahead of McGlade D'Alessandro, which should be possible without any mistakes.
It should be, but as we've seen earlier on this race, the doors have kind of opened for Simic, and it is his job to finish this. But we to be honest, I can't really remember the last time we've actually seen a proper mistake from Simicic. He is very robotic with his methods of racing. He obviously does the practice, knows what to do, and he comes out and he just executes. And that is the reason why he is leading this championship. And his team boss, Chris Cobb, has sent me a live championship table, and yes, so at the moment he would be leading by 93 points, and Peter Burlak would only be 16 points behind Martin Gosby, which leaves Burlak still open to get P2 in the championship. But it also means, unless Robin Panzar can get some more points, the only two people who can win the World Championship apart from Simicic would be Gosby and Burlak after this race if it finishes as we have it now. And I'm watching an Eric Andre. He's just come out of the pits and he's now got Ricardo Costa coming around the outside. And that's a really nice move by Ricardo Costa. To be fair, that is him up into what is 11th place. But obviously, some cars ahead still need to make a pit stop.
We've got some very curious things happening towards the front end. I'm double checking this and all my numbers. Janis Simicic on the back of Ivanov, going to be going for the lead of the race. Ivanov yet to make another pit stop, so don't worry about that. But Janis Simicic, soft tyres. McGlade D'Alessandro, soft tyres. Peter Burlak on the super soft.
I would assume this is purely so they can push. I was expecting them to go super soft, to be honest.
Same.
But I would expect this is just so they can push to the limit. Whereas Burlak is going to have a tiny hint of tyre management in his driving style for the next 10 laps of the race.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, I think last time out, Janis Simicic took his 15th World Championship victory. A man who is very bored of being second, has been second every season since 2016. So 16, 17 and 18. Second place every season. That is a man that is frustrated. And he is taking his frustration out on some serious lap times. Yeah,
he, at the end of last season, when he lost to Michaela, he was almost down about the situation. He came second for the third year in a row. He obviously wasn't quite ready, but he has come back this year and he has absolutely obliterated the field. He is a man on a mission in 2019, and it looks like he's going to be continuing that way with a 4.5 second gap to Peter Burlak.
Yeah, talk about ascending to the throne. That is one that he has definitely done, and done superbly well. Viktor Ivanov into the pit lane for his final time.
And where will he come out? He's going to come out in about 13th place. So unfortunately not any points. So Netrex pointless so far this race, but he's only a couple of positions away. So we'll have to see what he can do, because he can push those tyres to the limit with only 9 laps remaining.
Wow.
In fact, Eric Andres getting past Panzar. Panzar actually got past him as he came out the pit lane, because obviously you're slower coming up to Eau Rouge as you come out the pit lane. But Andre on the fresher tyres has got past him. He's up into 9th place, and I think that would be his first points in the World Championship since 2017, if he can get those. So it's been a little while for an Eric Andre.
Yeah, 10 laps to go in the Belgian Grand Prix, and things definitely still to play for at the bottom end of the points. Jeffrey Fournier on the super soft compound tyre on the back of Robin Panzar, who qualified in the front row of the grid. And things just fell apart from the first corner. Run down to the hill towards Eau Rouge. Contact down there, sent him to the back of the grid. And Panzar's trying to make his way back up to the points, but I think he might have those taken away. Stephen Michaels as well, looking particularly strong in 12th position at the moment, potentially going for his second point score of the finish, provided things play out well. But Jeffrey Fournier now, I think he'll try and make this go all the way around the outside of Robin Panzar. They're going to be side by side. Whoa! Panzar came across a little bit. There's a bit of contact.
Panzar has had to go around the escape road, and that could open the doors to Stephen Michaels. Actually, he doesn't get a good exit himself, but that could open a door coming up to Lecom. He's got hit! He's got hit from behind. Who is that? Viktor Ivanov. And
come on, Ivanov, you can't.
You can't really. Yeah, you can't really take that position. That is very dodgy from Viktor Ivanov, because that would have given Stephen Michaels some damage as well. as we come into the
he's
closing
going
stages.
for the next one.
And this
I mean,
could this be a double overtake? Could Stephen Michaels get past as well as we come into the No, he decides to back out of it. But that was very, very dodgy from Victor Ivanov. I'm actually going to grab a replay of that as we come around the final corner. And Victor Ivanov, he just slightly misjudged it, taps Stephen on the rear, and then went on to pass Robin as well. So that was a little bit naughty, to be honest. That was a little bit naughty from the Bulgarian driver.
Yeah, I think it's more of an innocent mistake, but at the same time, I mean, yeah, not really the smartest thing. It's like if he gets into the points now, I'm pretty sure a penalty will remove that from him. So it's kind of a bit of wow. Needless to say, that's up to people that are beyond me.
Yes. Oh, I'll tell you what. This shot here, I'm just looking at McGlade D'Alessandro. Jos Araneda is not out of contention for this podium position. He is just about close enough that if he can keep his tyres in check, he is definitely going to be having a look at this podium position. We have 8 laps to go in this race, including this one. He's not quite in the DRS zone yet.
What a drive it would be from Jos Araneda. Has had so much potential over various points of this 2019 season. Has failed to really sort of grab any of that potential. But at the moment, looking strong too. Stephen Michaels gets up past Robin Panzar now and up into 12th position. So things really falling off the wagon for ACR Blue. As ACR take it, their day has realistically not been good. Martin Gosby, David Morshek out of the race.
Only
Robin
one
Panzar
in the
out
points.
of the points. Yes,
yeah,
only one car in the points.
That's pretty crazy considering last race, I'm pretty sure they got 1, 2, 3, 4 in Hungary. So bit of a turn of events here in Spa, but that is what Spa is all about. We've had plenty of action in this race, plenty of overtakes, plenty of spins, and drivers doing different strategies, and that is what we all love about Spa-Francorchamps, and that's why we keep coming back here every year.
It's never a boring race, is it?
No, it never is, but it's because there's slipstream and overtaking and opportunities. Obviously, sometimes you get slipstream trains when there's loads of cars, but it generally works out to be a good race.
It's one of those classic circuits that you can find a lot of time if you know where to look. And that is why drivers absolutely love it. The prospect of being on the limit around here, there's risk everywhere to find that time. You make one false move, there's a barrier that has your name written on it. And for the moment, as Daniel Kish moves past Janis Brakshock, I wonder if Brakshock will be coming into the pit lane at some point soon to put on the ultras, so we can get to the end of the race. But yeah, it's one of those circuits that's defined by its challenge. And the only other thing that's more hand to hand with Spa and challenge is rain, but we don't have that today, so we're okay.
Yeah, no rain in Formula Sim Racing this season. We'll see for next year, because obviously it does need a plug-in, and at the start of the season when the rules package was created, there wasn't a reliable enough source. So the various people who make the votes decided to not run with rain again for the second season in a row due to inconsistent plug-in, but we will see for next year, because rain is something that certainly spices it up every now and again. But for now, we do just the sort of the default weather that comes on the server, so it's nice and sunny. But
yeah,
nevertheless,
Mohammed Patel was good in the wet. I'm sure he'd love some wet weather.
Patel, I can't remember if he won this race, because I think it was what's his name, Jim Parisis, who won this race. But in 2016, we had a wet race here, and it dried, but the dry line was so small that Jeroen Kweekel just couldn't get past Patel at all, because he was having to brake on the wet stuff and all this. And it was awesome just watching lap after lap Kweekel having a go, but couldn't quite make it past. But today there'll be certainly no difficulties passing if McGlade D'Alessandro can get far enough ahead. I tell you what, these guys are sister teams. I think Michaela might be holding off because he is nowhere in the championship hunt, whereas Petter Berlak is. So I wouldn't be surprised if Michaela actually stays in this position for the better
But with
of
Yossar and
their
Ada
sister
catching,
teams. Yes, so that is
would he
where.
really want that?
Yeah, that is.
Oh.
He's probably shouting at Petter like, "Speed up, speed up!" But Petter's just doing the pace that he can because he is having to do a longer stint on softer tyres, so he's going to have to be very careful with how he manages these tyres towards the end of this race. I tell you what, I just looked on the minimap. Robin Panzar got overtaken by Stephen Michaels, and he's actually been dropped. And we all know the difficulties at flag to flag, and more importantly, Steve himself has had a couple of races this season. Robin is in ultimately the best car on the field, and he's struggling. So it's not been the race today for Robin Panzar at all.
No, which is a shame because he had all that potential in qualifying from starting second. It's just not pieced itself together, unfortunately. Needless to say, I'm sure ACR will still be happy with the victory. But yes, right back towards that battle for the second. I'm not sure. I mean, McGlade D'Alessandro, surely he's got to go for it. Surely. You're a world champion against the world champion. You want to assert yourself a little bit, surely.
Yeah, he's also one thing that we saw last year was he's very smart with his racecraft, and I think this is one of those places where there's no point in fighting really, because I don't know. I don't want it to make it anticlimactic. I'm just thinking, unless Jos gets even closer, I think he might not take any significant risks.
Yeah, that's realistically that is the mark of a champion, though, isn't it? That's a driver that knows when and where to take risk, and unfortunately, that's a skill you do have to learn, as we have seen throughout sim racing and motorsport. Those that take risk unnecessarily has cost them championships. I remember Scott McLaughlin in 2017 in V8 Supercars cost a championship whilst taking risks he did not need to take throughout the season at multiple points. Whereas you look at him now, doesn't take that many risks and always wins. So it's all about playing your cards right, and D'Alessandro is definitely one who knows how to play his cards right. That's for sure.
Yeah, and I have to say it is good to see him and Petter back up here. You always want to see as you said earlier, a rainbow of teams. We've got 4 different teams in the top 4. We've got 5 different teams in the top 6. We got 8 different teams in the top 10. So certainly a mixed field today, and that is what we want to see.
Yeah, that's what happens at Spa. We've got that strategy. It's open. You've got more things that you can do here. Most other tracks, you've got one option on what you do. You've got low downforce, and you've got the 2-stop, and it's that, and that's it. Whereas here, you can go low, you can go high, you can go 2, you can go 3, you can go 4, you can go 1 if you're crazy. No one's quite done that so far today, so we're okay.
I've just seen a nice little bit of information. So, Yerne winning this race, he has 93 points, which means even if Gosby comes second in Monza in 3 weeks' time, if Yerne wins in Monza, he wins the championship. That is how significant that wheel failure for Gosby was.
Crazy, isn't it? We were eyeing Gosby up as maybe potentially getting his championship back on track, but now it's all fallen apart. And Yerne Simoncic has definitely now put 2 hands on that trophy. We've seen it in motorsport where people have had 2 hands on a trophy and then have completely collapsed and failed. Look at World Superbike this season.
Yes.
That is the craziest thing that I've ever seen in my life, to see someone with such a dominant position in a championship lose it. I think Stefano Coletti in Formula 2 GP2 as it was back then in 2012 looked so dominant and then just couldn't get on in the points. race after race, just couldn't get in the points, cost him a championship. Simitic, though, doesn't look like he's in that position at the moment. 9 seconds in the lead, 3 laps to go. Burlak not really under too much pressure from D'Alessandro. Jos Araneda is catching, but very, very slowly. One person, Daniel Kish as well, sort of catching, but not really. Daniel Kish, let's be real, he's had a very good race. All things
He has, but as I said about 15 laps ago, he's had a very quiet race. He's just been there. He's just been there. He hasn't really got too involved in the action. He's just been there. He's just done a solid race. And I can't actually remember where he started on the grid, to be honest, but he was kind of out of that first group that we were focusing on all the time. He just sat there at the back, did his strategy, and he's going to pull himself a 5th place, which is very good considering the year he has had. In other series as well, he just hasn't had. It was just one of those years everything went wrong. He had very few finishes, let alone good finishes, and it's good to see a driver of his capability doing well again. He's won multiple WC races over multiple seasons, and is he an ace champion?
I don't remember. He's been in FSR for a long time.
He might be in
FSR when I started.
He might be an ace champion as well. I might be wrong with that, but he could be as well. So he's certainly been very successful in Formula SimRacing World Championship.
Yeah, he qualified in 10th position, has moved up to 5th. His teammate Burlak qualified in 12th position, has moved up to 2nd. So positivity in the Edge Esports camp at this point in the year, having their 2 main game drivers back on course. I'm sure Andreas will be very happy with how things are unfolding here at Spa. Of course, a home circuit for him.
Yes, he's very big on things like that, like home races and stuff like that. So I'm sure if you check out the Edgy Sports Facebook page or something like that later on today, there'll be a very happy post. Because again, it's been a couple of races since they've had a decent result. I mean, Petr didn't show up last race, and his last podium was actually back in Azerbaijan back in May. And Daniel Kish as well. He's only had 1 podium this year and no other significant result. So this is really going to bump him up the championship as well.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll give Andreas a high five afterwards. Good lad. Runs a well-oiled organisation there at Edge Esports. Jos Araneda looking like he's starting to struggle a little bit, so there could be more to lap up for Daniel Kish, provided given the right opportunity at the moment. Janis Brakshock down quite a way behind. He's trying to stretch these tyres to the end of the race. A 6th place, realistically for him, would actually be quite a decent result. All things considered in the championship, and for Ghost Speed, to be fair, good day at the office, 6th and 7th as we start the final lap of this Belgian Grand Prix.
I tell you what, this has been one of quite good race because all the drivers are so close. I mean, if you look on the table, I know Yanni's got a little bit of a lead, but all these drivers like coming through the final chicane now, that's all the points. They're so close. There's only a few seconds, whereas last time there were so many last time in Hungary, there's so many drivers like a minute or more off the pace. So it's good to see that we've had a very... Oh, is this Michele D'Alessandro going for the lead on the final lap of the race? It is. Michele D'Alessandro has sat there. There's me saying he's not going to overtake him 5 laps ago, and he's absolutely proved me wrong on this final lap. And he has sat there, and he has overtaken overtaken Petr Burliak to take 2nd place. And this is what Mark Hutchinson did in the pro race earlier. He sat behind Tom Satherley pretty much the whole race, and then with 5 laps to go, boom, went and done it and pulled away. But Michele has done this on the final lap in the last proper overtaking zone, apart from the final chicane. I don't think Petr was ready for that, to be honest.
No, I was wondering if he was going to leave it to the last minute. I've also noticed that Janis Simicic's taken a 9-second lead down to 6.4. I don't think there's anything too much more to read into this as he heads out of Curve Paul Frere. We'll just double check the gap. Let's be honest, it's not close enough for anything to happen. But final time, heading through Blanchimont and up towards the bus stop chicane. Janis Simicic, it feels like we've been saying this quite a lot this season. He's been on the podium in every race. And realistically, He could be world champion in only a few weeks. Jerne Simoncic victorious here in Belgium by quite a margin. 5.4 seconds over McGlade D'Alessandro and Peter Burlak onto the podium. McGlade D'Alessandro's first podium since China. Peter Burlak's first podium since Azerbaijan. These two have been waiting a long time. A fantastic last lap move for D'Alessandro to put him up into second position. Oh, contact there after the line. Never mind, we'll ignore that. Jos Araneda into fourth position. So best result of the season for Ground Effect. Fantastic work for them. Daniel Kish, fifth place. Say Andreas will be very happy with that. Brakshok and Lukashek, 6th and 7th for Go Speed. Costa and Fournier, 8th and 9th. Costa, what could have been after that contact with him and Mohamed Patel, down in 8th position. Potentially could have been up for race victory, maybe. Definitely one to contend for the podium. And Eric Andre in 10th position for flag-to-flag second point scorer of the season and his first of the season. Viktor Ivanov potentially awaiting a penalty at the end of this, although he's outside of the points anyway, so it's not really too big a deal. After contact going into La Source, Stephen Michaels in 12th position, Giordano Valeriano in 13th, Robin Panzar from the front row to 14th place, definitely not the result ACR wanted from him. Galana Matis down in 15th position, a very good result. Michi Hoyer drops out of the points after contact with his ex-teammate Robin Panzar down into 16th position, and Bogdanov down in 17th, the last of the finishers. Only a minute off the lead, to be fair, after 44 laps of intense racing. That's not that bad. Mohamed Patel, Martin Gosby, Yuri Kazdorp and David Mrocek retired from the race earlier. But to start our second part of the season, as it were, that is a good race to start on. However, the form at the top remains the same.
Yeah, what a race that was as well, to be honest. That was such a good example of why Spa is one of the better circuits. However, after all that racing, it's still Jerne Simoncic who managed to come out on top. But there were so many other contenders. Gosby had a wheel failure. Costa had contact. Burlak spun it, remember? Burlak almost came second, and he spun it in Les Combes. So there's so much more that could have happened. So it sort of opened his way for Simoncic a little bit, but you cannot deny the talent of this man and what he has done this season.
As I said, the only thing that you could do with dominance is respect it. And that is all you can do with Jerne Simoncic right now, is respect what he's doing, respect what the team is doing. We'll be curious to see what he says after the race, after his 7th Grand Prix victory of the season. I mean, absolutely peerless. He's, as I say, 7 points now away from already winning this World Championship. And with 5 rounds to go, I'm pretty sure he can score 7 of the 125 up for offer, no? Been on the podium every race this season. I say, joined on the podium by 2 people who've been waiting a long time between drinks.
We've got Jerne for an interview, so if we just jump over to Discord, then we will be able to pick him up.
Fingers crossed we're all coming through nicely on the broadcast then.
Yep, we are here.
Good stuff. So, after an interesting Grand Prix, shall we say, we'll first go to Jerne Simoncic, of course, victor for the 7th time this season. You were knocked off the podium a little bit earlier in that race there, Jerne. What happened at the early points, and how did you bring it back to end on the top step of the podium?
Yeah, I was not really prepared for the first stint. Because of the special race that we had yesterday, the World Fastest Gamer. So actually the only longer stint that I've done was my first few laps on like a few days ago, when I did like 10 laps on Ultrasofts or something. But after that I only had time for quali laps. So yeah, that was not optimal. So I was not expecting people to push that hard. And I was not surely even less expecting Costa to bump past me, and I'm not sure what he was doing, but he damaged Gosby and then he damaged me. But I don't know. In the end, everyone dropped off. I got a little bit lucky during the pit stops because I think it was Costa who got stuck behind Patel, and I overcut them somehow. But yeah, thanks to the team for suggesting me not to double stop, but to do the 3-stop strategy, because 2 stops really was not good today. And yeah, in the end, it just worked. Suddenly, in last stint, I was a second faster than everyone. I had no idea. I have no idea how that happened, but yeah, I'm really happy. But at the same time, it's been a tough race for our team with Martin's steering wheel failure from the lead and incidents for Robin, and really tough tough luck for David, especially considering what happened to him yesterday. So tough times, but yeah, happy to keep the 100% winning ratio.
Yeah, absolutely. Now we got information midway through the race that you are now 7 points realistically away from already winning the championship. So should you score 7 more points than your closest rival, your teammate Martin Gosby, in the Italian Grand Prix, that's it. Job done for the season. So realistically, with that in your mind, 125 points up for offer. I'm assuming the main game is to get this all wrapped up in Monza and then enjoy the rest of the season.
Yeah, I was just discussing with teammates just before that Monza weekend will be crazy with like 4 races in 3 days with the endurance and some GT3s, and then the WCS and some crazy racing for whole weekend. So I will not be able to prepare as well as I should. So I don't know. I don't really have any plans. I know that I have it in my pocket. Um, Even if my steering wheel fails, then I have my good old DFGT to give me the 7 points that I need. Um, so yeah, not really any plans. I will just try my best, enjoy the rest of the races, because yeah, some really nice rounds coming. So Monza, Singapore, Suzuka, awesome races, awesome tracks. So looking forward.
Excellent. We'll see if you can add to your already large number of wins this season. 7 wins knocked up this season by Yanni Simoncic. Fantastic results. So thank you very much for joining us, Yanni. Now we'll join ourselves with McGlade D'Alessandro. Of course, hasn't been on the podium since back in China, so it's been a long time between drinks. But this time, it looked like a very, very solid drive. Got yourself up into second position. Looked very, very strong. Realistically, overtook Peter Burlack on the last lap. How were you thinking over that final stint, staring at the back of Burlack? Were you kind of like weighing it up as if waiting for that overtake, or where was your head at?
Yeah, I was waiting for the overtake because I had very little fuel. I underfueled a bit too much at the start, so I, sorry, I had to save basically 1.5 behind better. Yeah, I think it was a bit safe for me that overtake because better had the disadvantage with tires, and so I just had to save. It was it wasn't really complicated. Probably it's one of my best spa races, considering that I did very limited time of practice, and I drove quite well. I don't know what happened in the third stint because from being half a second behind Yerne, I pitted 1 lap later and I was 4 seconds behind. I don't know, I had a bad lap with Cliff, and after that my chance of winning were gone. But with no practice whatsoever, started driving yesterday, it was not possible to aim for anything better than that today.
Well, I mean, it's one of your best results of the season. All things considered, the season hasn't gone quite the way you would have expected it, coming in with obviously the number one on your car. Over the next 5 rounds, is it sort of trying to prepare yourself for a charge in 2020, or are you just still trying to ground yourself in the championship?
I have no idea whatsoever right now. The problem this year was that ACR found a good setup. We struggled with a really bad setup, and we had a lot of events around races, and we were not competitive. And ACR did a better job than us. So for this year, there was no chance we could fight with ACR. They were too good this year.
Well, I mean, you look to be getting closer and closer as the season progresses. So, McGlade D'Alessandro, thank you very much for joining us. Of course, heads into his home Grand Prix in the next round at Monza. So definitely one for us to all watch. Thank you very much. And the final person that we will have in the interview is Mr. Peter Berlak. Got onto the podium here for the first time since back in Azerbaijan. Started off the season with 3 podiums, finally gets back on it. Of course, a track that he'd won back in 2018. So how do you unravel that one there, Mr. Berlak, if he's here?
Yes, I'm here. Well, the start, I mean, qualifying wasn't quite expected, but it worked out in the end. Because I thought I had a okay lap, but I guess I was just understeering too much, and 41.0, there's not much more in that. But anyway, first stint, I just tried to look after the tires for when I had a clean track. But yeah, when passing Michi there, I don't know, he understeered wide and we crashed. So that compromised my race quite badly. Because without that, maybe I would have been able to fight for the win. I'm not sure. I don't know how much Yerne was managing, like the last stint and a half. And yeah, once I got into P2, I knew that Michele would just keep saving and do a pass like penultimate or last lap. And it was just about trying to keep Jos out of DRS.
Yeah, I mean, it was a very good drive. So, like on par with the ones you've had earlier in the season. Now, I'm assuming that you've probably struggled on the same kind of setup as McGlade was saying about like the struggles on setup in comparison to ACR, that they found something. Do you feel that you're finding something and that you can maybe at least challenge for that second position in the championship? Of course, you've closed up to Martin Gosby, courtesy of that retirement on his part. Do you feel like there is potential for that charge for a second position for a runner-up?
Possibly. Although we never really know how much we'll prepare. We are slightly off the pace still, of their pace. So we're gonna have to put in hours into setup and doing stints, and I don't know if we'll do that to the end of the season, because we're also focusing on some other events.
Absolutely, the sim racing landscape is a very busy one, isn't it? And with drivers like yourself fighting towards the top, it's notable that you will but be busy elsewhere as well. But thank you very much there, Peter Berlak, for joining us. And back then to Cameron Rodger. And to sum up that race, we've had some excellent stuff to rejoin from that summer break, and we've got still a little break until the next round. I think it's 3 weeks until we head to Monza. But realistically, to start that second part of the season, what a race!
Yeah, that was such a good race. Awesome race to come back from after the summer break, and Monza next time round again. Another track, loads of slipstream will be involved, and we had a great race last year with Berlak, Patel, and D'Alessandro as well. Patel actually spun it in the final corner, which helped Berlak win on that occasion as well. So I'm sure we're going to get a good race in Monza on the 15th of September. So yes, 3 weeks time we'll be back for the Italian Grand Prix, and we'll have our 22 drivers again going back for it, and we will obviously have Academy and Pro prior to that in the morning as well.
Yes, obviously stuff not to miss. And we have 5 more rounds of the 2019 season. We go to Italy, we go to Singapore, Japan, the United States, and Brazil. It is going to be an excellent end to the season, regardless of what Simoncic is going to do at the top end of the championship. That one, we can kind of ignore that. But everything at the top end, we're going to have a great run. So we'll catch you in 3 weeks' time at the Italian Grand Prix. And until then, thank you very much for joining us, and goodbye.